Greetings, students, and welcome to this episode of The Professor Travel. I am your host, The Professor Travel, coming to you from Southern California. This is the website, the vlog, and the podcast that you come to in order to learn more about different travel destinations. This is where we come as a team, as a group, in order to discuss them. Hopefully, this will inspire you to travel more and ultimately to enjoy life more. Now, you can reach me on a variety of different social media platforms, of course, starting with my website at theprofessortravel.com, but on YouTube, on Facebook, and now on TikTok, you can reach me at all locations at The Professor Travel. If you are a if you are a Instagrammer, you can find me there at _professor_travel. If you're a Twitter, you can find me on Twitter at theprofessortr1. And then finally, if you're a blogger, you can find me on Blogspot at theprofessortravel.blogspot.com. Today, it is my pleasure to reacquaint you with two of my favorite people in the entire world, Matt Allen and Kimbra Shaffer from the wonderful Fintastic Cruising podcast and Fintastic Studios as well. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for showing up. I know you guys just got back from an amazing cruise and we're going to talk about that. But for my viewers and listeners who may not be familiar with some of the things that you do, maybe we can just kind of go over a little bit about your backgrounds, either educational or some places that you traveled before.
Want me to go first?
You get to go first.
All right. Well, I will speak a little bit for the both of us because we both work at the Florida Aquarium in Tampa. So we both have a broad interest in animal life, especially marine life, and reptiles are kind of our passion. And so I teach there. She schedules the things that I teach there. And we love to cruise because it gets us to all of these destinations where we can see all these amazing animals as well as experience lots of fun cultures and just lots of cool stuff.
Very cool.
What he said.
I was like, anything we want to add to that? No, it's great. So talk to me a little bit about, now we are, for those people that are viewing this either now or in the future, we are currently in the midst of a pretty sizable pandemic. We're coming out of some of it in some ways, but there are some troubled spots in other places. So knowing that there are always the concerns and risks about traveling and dealing with those types of things. So with that in mind, I want to kind of flavor this podcast and vlog for a little bit of a discussion on where you went and why you went. So let's talk a little bit about your decision to go and where did you decide to go?
Sure.
Yeah, so we went on a cruise on the Carnival Mardi Gras to San Juan, Amber Cove, and Nassau.
Amber Cove in the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
And Nassau, Bahamas.
Yes. So we are cruisers, as Matt mentioned before, and we have a cruise booked for September that's been booked for 2 years that got pushed back
forever.
Yeah, we've been waiting. And we got a special kind of offer to jump on the Mardi Gras. And things have been looking good for cruises, so we were like, all right. So that's
all
what
right. I am a Matt, just I'm not that Matt.
I got it. Now let me ask you a question. Why the Mardi Gras? What was the draw to want to go on that ship?
Well, Mardi Gras is the brand new flagship Carnival cruise line vessel. It is new to Carnival, but it's also new in that Carnival finally built what they're calling the XL class, which means it's a ship that rivals the size of like the Oasis class for Royal Caribbean and some of the big Norwegian ships. Before that, they were not really coming that close to that size-wise. So this one, it's a huge, huge ship. It's been anticipated for a long time. It's got a roller coaster on it, if that gives you some idea of the scale of this thing. And so it's just really exciting. Lots of new venues on this for eating, a lot of eating.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really exciting ship.
Excellent. Now, we may mention that this was something that had been planned quite some time ago. You started planning this in 2019, before the pandemic had hit, and then all of a sudden, boom, everything goes off the rails. What kind of advanced planning did you need in order to even get on the ship? Did they have protocols for vaccinations or PCR tests or anything like that, visa, anything that you needed to have ahead of time?
So this cruise in particular that we just got off of, we actually hadn't planned for. We booked it 2 weeks in advance.
Oh, okay.
We are travel advisors, and we got a special offer through Carnival at like an amazing rate. So we jumped on and booked it. And like 2 weeks later, we jumped on a ship.
Our next cruise, the Horizon's the one that we booked
Got it.
that and
Yeah.
had to reschedule it. But yeah, this one's kind of came out of the blue, and they made us an offer we couldn't refuse.
Basically.
Apparently, yeah. But it's like one of those things, I guess, that you're present, like, for example, here on the West Coast, you guys are on the East Coast, just for people who are not familiar with it. But on the West Coast, we have a similar ship, not quite as big as the Mardi Gras. We have the Carnival Panorama that's out of Long Beach, and that one just started sailing. I think it was last week. Doug Parker covered it on Cruise Radio News, and so that one's pretty sizable too. That one's, I think, got a 4,000 person capacity or something like that. Not quite. I mean, it's oh gosh, how do you compare? It's like apples to oranges. It's like, they're both really, really large ships, but it's like, I guess the Mardi Gras is just a little bit newer than the Panorama is.
Yeah, so the Panorama was the third of the Vista class ships, which is the Vista, the Horizon, which is the next one we're going on, and the Panorama. And they are big cruise ships, and the Panorama was the most recent before Mardi Gras. They were by far Carnival's biggest ships. The Mardi Gras it's substantially bigger compared to that. It's crazy to think that, because 4,000 or 5,000, I think the Vista class holds like 5,000. I almost said pizzas. I don't know. It probably is 5,000.
It is a Carnival ship, so we do know they have a lot of pizzas on
there. They
there.
have lots of pizza, and it's very good. But the Mardi Gras, I want to say its capacity is like 7,000 or something.
Oh my gosh!
It's at least 6,000.
So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and when you see one, so we were in one port, and it was we were parked next to the Magic, and the Magic is a little bit smaller than, like, say, the Panorama. And I mean, when you look at them side by side, you can see a definite difference, but when you're on board, I don't know that it felt that much bigger than like the Vista class, but it is bigger. So the Vista or the Panorama kind of sits in between those. So it's definitely bigger. It's a little wider. It's a little longer. It's a little taller, but
it's a little bluer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They painted
that's something new.
They're doing that to some of the older ships too, though, which I really like that.
It's a good
color
look.
scheme. Yeah.
It's very different. It's very modern. It's something that's different. I mean, certainly they still have the signature smokestack again, that's very specific to them. How would you compare this to either I guess the Pride is one that's a big one in your specific area, the Carnival Pride. How would you compare it size-wise to something like that?
So the Pride is the Pride, the Legend, the Miracle are all ships in the Spirit class, I believe. They're the Spirit class, and they are smaller than like that the Carnival Breeze and Carnival Magic. So
I mean, those are small enough to sail out of Tampa and go under the Skyway Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Skyway Bridge in Tampa, you've got to be a certain height or under a certain height to sail through that.
Ride this ride. Got it.
Yeah. Now they're not the smallest ship. They're kind of on the larger end of the smaller ships, I would say, because the smaller ships are like the fantasy class ships, and then you've got kind of, I think there may be something in between there and the Legend and stuff. But I will say that the Pride, the Legend, the Miracle, all very popular ships. And other than the Mardi Gras, the Legend has been my favorite ship, and I think the Miracle has been yours. And I just haven't sailed on the Miracle yet. And a lot of people love the Carnival Pride. A lot of people love the Carnival Pride, and there's something about that. So they're not the biggest, but they got something.
Speaking of the Carnival Pride, you have something coming up on the Carnival Pride. Isn't there something going on there?
We do.
So we have a group cruise on the Carnival Pride, February 19th, 2023.
So lots of time to plan for.
Yes, lots of time to plan and save. So it is our first Fintastic group cruise.
Nice.
Carnival Pride.
Yep. And if you are interested in booking that cruise,
You can email me at fintastictravel@gmail.com.
there you
Thank
go.
you so much. There we go. Thank you
And
so
it leaves
very
out
much.
of Tampa.
Yeah.
Leaves out of
So
Tampa.
since we work in Tampa, and literally the aquarium where we work is like right next to, and I mean right next to, the cruise port. So in fact, our parking lot for the aquarium is closer to the cruise ships than the official like place that you park if you're going on the cruise, which is painful at times, but now we kind of miss them. They haven't come back to Tampa yet. They should be back soon. But
October.
we chose Tampa because we want people that are coming on this group cruise. We wanted to give them an opportunity, maybe a couple days before or after, that we could do some cool Tampa stuff. We're very nature focused, so maybe we'll go find some alligators or go to the aquarium, or just it's our stomping grounds, I guess you could say.
You are the masters of that area, and I can tell you, if you were to do something specifically with the aquarium, I know that my spouse would very much like to go and check it out and see all the creatures there. And speaking of which, you guys do a really great segment on all of your shows called the Cruise Creature, and you guys highlight a lot of not only the wonderful creatures that you see on cruises, but also conservation efforts and everything that you do in reference to that. So I want to highlight that too, because you guys do such an amazing job on that. So keep doing the great work on that. So let's talk about this trip though. Okay, so knowing that you are about to go on this cruise that you've only booked 2 weeks in advance, what do you pre-pack for something like this? What do you need to be aware of? Are like it's going to boggle my mind to think about this, but you've got, certain ports that you might go to that are going to require PCR testing, or knowing that you have to have like a clear vaccination. Do you have to have like 172 hours prior to that, or like what is the situation exactly involved before you even get started?
Well, right now, the rule of thumb, if you're cruising, is be prepared for things to change at any moment, because that's what happened to us. So Carnival at that time was cruising at 95% vaccinated, which meant that if you were under 12, or if you were just an adult that didn't, for whatever reason, want to get vaccinated, you could apply for an exemption, and up to 5% of the people would be granted that exemption. Because of the Delta virus and how bad things got, between the time that we booked and the time that we went on the cruise, they changed and became pretty much, well, I think they were still at that level when we went on there,
Yeah.
but they changed some of their other policies. They changed their mask policy to make it more stringent. They just had very limited mask policies when we booked, and they made it more, you have to wear a mask in theaters, restaurants, elevators.
Unless, of course, you're eating.
Yeah. And then right before, like the week that we got on was the first week they did this. Even though we were vaccinated, we had to get an antigen or PCR test within basically 3 days.
72 hours.
Yeah, 72 hours of getting on. And before that, if you were unvaccinated, you had to get a PCR test within that time, and then they would test you again at port.
And that's still the case.
And that is still the case. So for us, we found out we had to get that test, and it was stressful because we're very careful. We wear a mask. We're very careful with the whole pandemic, but we were like, what if we're positive? What if we get a false positive? Where are we going to get this test? And people were having difficulties finding places to get tested. Tests were getting canceled on people and all this stuff. So it was a huge amount of stress. And, but we understood it. Like I said, we're safety first, 100%. And so we were able to get an appointment at CVS. It actually went extraordinarily smoothly when we did it then.
Nice.
It's getting a little trickier now, but we went in, we got our tests, we got our results right away. And as soon as we got those results, and of course they were negative, all of a sudden that stressor of, oh no, we got to get this test, became sort of more of a relief, because now we're like, well, now we know that everybody getting on this cruise ship has shown a negative test within 72 hours of getting on the ship. Doesn't mean that there's nobody on there that could possibly be infected, but it does increase the odds that less people or nobody is infected. And for us, that made us feel even more comfortable about the going on the cruise in the first place. As far as ports go, the only one that had any restrictions about the vaccine was Nassau, and the Bahamas kind of changed that while we were sailing. And so now they're very much, unless you're under 12 or have a legitimate medical reason not to get vaccinated, you cannot get off at Nassau, which is why Carnival and the other cruise lines have now gone to pretty much everybody has to be vaccinated unless you are
Yeah.
under 12 or have a
Yep.
medical exemption. But in all the ports, we had to wear our masks walking around. They were lenient if you're outside in the heat and stuff. You know, they weren't going to be like marching up to you and making you pull your mask up. But if you were around people, you know, you were expected to do that. People generally did. When we went into stores or businesses, most of them, they all had kind of an enforcement of, I think, mask wearing, but they also had like hand sanitizer at the doors, stuff that we saw early on in Florida in the pandemic, but not anymore. They still were doing that. And so that, again, was no problem for us. In fact, it made us feel pretty comfortable. And also, you know, those people need to stay safe. So it was good.
Absolutely. What about in terms of the weather that you expected to have on this trip? What did you pre-pack for?
So as far as weather in general, one thing that we were concerned about is there were a couple hurricanes that were kind of flowing through right where we were going.
Well, one was a hurricane, right? Were they
No,
two hurricanes?
they were both
They
hurricanes.
both became hurricanes.
Yeah. So one of them actually kind of passed as we were getting ready to leave. So we were kind of okay there. The other one was like heading right through the path that we were going. So we were like, okay, so we're going to go right through all of this weather. Luckily, cruise ships can go around that stuff.
Yeah.
So it ended up being fine. It actually moved further south and west, and it was west, right?
West. Yeah, well, it kind of went further south trajectory. It was heading northwest, but it made a further south trajectory and put it below Cuba. And we were in kind of the Eastern Caribbean, Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and stuff. So we ended up having some of the best weather I've ever had on a cruise ever.
It was kind of one of those things where like the calm after the storm.
Yeah.
It was like amazing. So, you know, short sleeves, shorts, sunglasses, hats, great stuff.
Excellent.
It was a lot of stress. This cruise had so much stress because, first of all, I was shocked that we were able to get that time off of work on that shorter notice, especially with as many cruises we have booked, because we were making up for lost time. But we were. And then, you know, there's the pandemic. Of course, that's something that we are concerned about. And we wanted to be safe. And then getting the vaccine, and then we got storms a brewing, and then there was like a hurricane, or not a hurricane. Then there was an earthquake in Haiti, which Dominican Republic and Haiti. That's all Hispaniola.
Like while we were on.
Yeah. So and you know, so it was like, at some point you're just like, you throw your hands up in the air and you go, you know what? I don't even care. We're going to get on the ship and they can just sit in Canaveral. I don't care. I'm on a ship.
Well, you guys love the water.
It ended up all being fine. So
excellent. I want to go back to something that Kimbra was talking about just a second ago. For those people, like just for my students, that might be a little hesitant to travel during the Jason months, which we call like July, August, September, October, November, because of the fear of hurricanes. You made a very good point of knowing that you can, in most cases, you can steer around a hurricane and get around that. But it's important to be aware that if that was to be the case, that you might see a change in your itinerary because of something like that, whether it's at sea days or going to a different port. Am I correct on that, or am I just assuming too much on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one great thing about cruises is if you're going somewhere and there's a hurricane coming, a cruise ship can totally modify what it was originally going to do. Now, that may mean that you're not going to go to the port that you wanted to go to, or you might stay at sea a little longer, but you're not going to have to go through that stormy weather for the most part. So that's a really great thing about cruising.
And the advantage of cruising during the Jason months is that the rates are generally lower, but you are gambling a little bit with the weather. But like Kimbra said, you know, they can go around them. And if you look back at the history of cruising, it's very rare that cruises get canceled because of hurricanes. Sometimes there's problems with flight delays. You may want to make plans for that to get down a little bit early if you're flying to Florida or something. But but usually they can go around it. You just have to have your flexibility pants on and be okay with like changes and stuff, but you might be paying several $100s less per person. So especially, I always tell people, look, if you're going to cruise once every 2-3 years, once in a lifetime, then don't cruise during the Jason months. Cruise when you know you're going to have a really good odds of having good weather and everything. And maybe there's a port you really want to see. But if you're like us and you live in Florida or somewhere where you can drive to a cruise port and you try and cruise once or twice a year, then roll the dice, take a chance. I'm not a gambler, but in this case, take a chance because the odds are in your favor that it's going to be okay.
And you're still on a cruise.
And you're still on a cruise. Absolutely. Speaking of driving, okay, so let's talk about this because you both live out of Tampa Bay, the Tampa area. And this was not in Tampa. So you had to drive a little ways in order to get there. This was out of Canaveral, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So that's you said 2 hour?
Yeah, it's about 2 hours for us.
Okay. So you did you drive there yourself? Did you just Uber it? What did you do in order? Because that might affect the parking cost as well when you get there.
Yeah, so we drove over there. We woke up way too early and got there way too early.
As if we were sleeping.
Right. Yeah. So we drove over about 2 hours. We decided that we wanted to park there at the terminal. So they have a really nice parking garage.
It's a brand new terminal for the Mardi Gras.
Yes.
So
Oh, nice.
Everything's shiny and new.
Yes. And so we parked there and it was what, $17 or $18 a day.
Oh, that's not bad.
It wasn't cheap.
That's actually not that bad considering the prices here in California. So from my perspective,
right.
It's actually not that bad.
So
I think Long Beach is $25 a day. So
oh wow. Yeah. So it wasn't too bad. I know that there are some hotels around that like do a park and stay or park and cruise, whatever it's called. You can stay there and park and then they'll shuttle you over. There's some other like shuttle services from different places you park and they shuttle you over.
Yeah, offsite parking.
And those are typically a little cheaper.
Yeah.
But we wanted to just be at the port, get on, get off, go to the car and drive.
We didn't need any more stressors.
No. We wanted everything to just happen.
We already got like an amazing deal on the cruise. So we're like, you know what? We're going to shell out that money. It's okay.
So in this particular case, no flights were involved, no pre-vacation destinations. So you didn't like stay at anywhere. But so you arrive in Canaveral, you see the ship. And that's the one thing I want to focus on for just a second. You see the ship for the first time in person. What were your feelings at that point?
So when we, like I said, we got to the terminal like 2 hours before we needed to be there. So we got out of the car and we went to the edge of the parking garage to look up at the ship. And it was beautiful, but all we could see was the very back of it because the rest of it was covered by the terminal. It was like, wow, look at that aft.
Nice aft. That's what she said, I think.
Yeah. So it was really awesome. And we're like, wow, that's big. But literally we could see like the very back part of it. So it wasn't until we were like really getting onto the ship that we were able to really take it all in.
It was still exciting though.
Oh, absolutely.
And look, I'm a crier. Like I will cry at the least amount of sensitivity in a movie. I'm like tears streaming. And so I thought for sure when I walked onto that cruise ship for the first time in like 15 months or whatever it was, 500 and some days, that I would just break down, but I didn't. And I think it's because I had so much adrenaline and excitement. I really, as we were walking through the terminal and you can see through the windows, you can see the ship and you're getting close to the gangway and we're on the gangway. I didn't really believe we were going on a cruise until we really stepped onto that ship. And it was just, I was almost in shock.
Well,
it's been so long.
It's funny because we were filming because we vlog everything. And we walked in and I was kind of like, just kind of looking around and Matt said, "You look lost." And I said, "I'm just taking it all in."
I want to ask you about entering the ship in just a second, but I just as like a quick comparison piece. I remember very vividly the first time, it seems the larger the ships, get that I cruise on, the more I'm just like in awe of them when I get to them. I know you have a regular person who listens to your vlog and podcast, Mary Miller, who's a big Princess fan. And so
Mhm.
the biggest cruise ship I've ever been on is called the Regal Princess, and it was out of the Baltic. So we loaded on in Copenhagen, but we could see the ship from miles away, and so we're driving towards it, and we're like, "Wow, that must be a large ship." Or and we're still going there. Like we're talking 5 minutes later, and we're still on the way there, and it's like, "Wow, it's just like huge." And so we're getting close to it, and it's like I'm looking up, and it's like 18 stories worth of ship, and it's like, wow, this is fantastic. So for me, that experience when you're like just coming up to the ship and experiencing it for the first time, I don't gloss over that, because for me, it's kind of that awe moment. It's like that, just that experience piece. So again, thank you for sharing that with us. Now,
Well,
I
and,
do
and
want.
I should say when we were driving there, Kimbra was driving there. And so we saw the new cruise terminal from a distance, and we saw the Mardi Gras. And I think you said something like, "Oh, look, there's like two really big buildings over there." And I was like, "That's no building. That's a space station." But I mean, there was the Mardi Gras. It was like this huge, it looked like a giant downtown skyscraper.
Yeah.
But it was, at that point, it was so far away that,
It just kind of looked like buildings.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it is an impressive thing to take in.
Speaking of in, when you went in to the ship, now did you board through like a lower level? Did you board at the like main entry, the what do you call it, that main entry area? Like like where was the entry point to the ship?
So for this ship in particular, you board on deck 6, which is the bottom level of what they would call, I guess, the atrium.
Okay.
However, on this ship, it's a little bit different because they've got it set up with a big stage. They call this area center stage, and it's a big stage with a bunch of seating. So it's kind of like another theater with like an atrium feel. It's very, very interesting, but it's one of those things where you walk in and you can just tell how big this ship is because it's just a huge open space.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's almost like you're in a giant hotel. One of the things that I don't love about the Vista class ships is that they put in these kind of cool LED light things, but they shrunk their atriums down. So you don't get that grand feel. They're huge ships, but you don't get that grand feel when you walk on board. The LEDs are neat, but I missed that. That was like one of my few complaints about the Vista class ships. And so this one also doesn't have as tall of an atrium as some of the older ships where you can see all the way up to like the 17th floor, whatever it is. But it was such a huge, wide open space that it had its own feel to it.
Well, that in the stage, the background of the stage is actually windows.
Mm.
So you just look out into, well, in port, you look at the port. But when you're at sea, it's just like water, and it's this huge window, and then there's some cool screens that like come down and do neat things. But I think that makes it feel even bigger because you just feel like it's this never ending thing.
Yeah, they can close the window with all these interlocking TV screens that make it a solid background. And if you put those all together, they're like the size of a jumbotron at a stadium or something like that.
Probably bigger than that.
It's
Like
crazy.
huge. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Now, did you have to? I know previously when I've gone to ships, I could get on maybe an hour or 2 hours before my actual appointment time. Was that the same situation, or were they a lot more strict about that because of COVID?
So they were strict-ish. We had a boarding time of 10:30, and so like the first boarding time possible. So a lot of people got there and they actually had us in a waiting room. We actually didn't get on the ship until 11:30. I think they had some people that they needed to get off that were a little bit behind. They were still trying to get set up from the last group of people. So we actually got on a little bit later, but I guess I don't know what happened after that. But for us, we actually got on later than what we had planned.
But compared to other cruises I've been on, like if you get on the ship by 11, you're doing pretty good
Mhm.
normally. And I felt like we made that. The other thing to think about is that Carnival was sailing at about 70% capacity. Some of the other cruise lines are doing quite a bit less than that.
Yeah.
And so that made probably expedited it a little bit, but it was a pretty smooth process. But it took us, like Kimbra said, we got there stupid early. Like we were surprised they even let us park because we were so early. Like we were pulling in like everybody else was leaving, and we could see the people coming out.
Like we pulled in and the guy was like, "Are you picking up?" We're like, "No, we're parking."
And he just kind of rolled his eyes like, "Oh,
he's like, "Oh, you're one of those people." Got it. Okay. So, but actually, that highlights something else that I don't think we've really alluded to. When we talked about it being a new ship, this is literally I don't know how many cruises the Mardi Gras actually had, but this was probably one of the, like, you guys may have been in like the first 10 cruises.
We were on their third sailing.
Yeah.
Third sailing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know.
You're like, I know, it's so cool.
No, it had that new cruise ship smell.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah, exactly. You have to look under the mats and everything. It's fantastic. No, it's great. I've never been on a cruise ship that new. So of course the concerns I would have are with any new ship is like, okay, are you gonna have like little, things that aren't going to be working on the ship? Are there going to be some, does it have that paint smell? Or like, I mean, the good news is that this ship has been, it was manufactured and kind of put into dry dock because of the pandemic. So any like new smell from carpeting or paint or anything like that would have dissipated a year ago. But in the meantime, though, there are other things that could potentially go wrong on the ship. And I'll ask you a little bit more about that as we go along, if you experience any type of like little things. But before we even get into that, I know one of the biggest challenges I have and the biggest nightmares I've had on cruise ships is, of course, the muster drill, just when we we're getting ready to do that. However, I know that there have been some changes to the muster drill. How was that for you?
The muster drill was wonderful. So yeah, I know, right? I mean, I still don't want to do it, but in the past, the muster drills, you have to go to the spot and stand around with all the snotty nosed kids around you, and they scan in your thing, and then you're supposed to be able to listen to the person, the crew member that's talking about something, but you can't actually hear them because everybody around you won't shut up, or you're waiting for people. It's just a pain in the butt. One of the lovely things that has actually come out of the pandemic is the muster drill. So we go to our station, whatever it is, they scan your card, you went into a room, they showed you how to put on your life jacket, and you were done.
And you go on your own time.
Yes, but if you want to drink, you have to do it before you drink.
Which is brilliant, because the type of people that skip muster are also the type of people that drink. Not that everybody that drinks skips muster. Most of them don't, but I feel like the ones that are out there trying to skip muster are probably at the bar somewhere.
The drinkers.
It was just, but it was, seriously though, it was a really cool, quick, efficient thing. And honestly, like what is the purpose of the muster? It's a safety thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they want you to learn? They want you to learn how to put on a life jacket.
And where to go.
It's not that complicated.
And where to go.
And that's the most important thing. Where do you go? So when you do a regular muster and it takes like half an hour to an hour and it's hot and everybody's crabby and they're like, go to your muster. It's like, it's just one of the most aggravating times on the cruise. This eliminates that, which to me, as an education person, I'm like, when you get rid of all that stuff, it leaves the brain clear and open to actually remember what you wanted to learn. And so I feel like it's probably more effective as well as more efficient.
Well, one thing that you just made me think of is where your muster station is. Like, I can tell you now exactly where that muster station is.
F7.
Yes, but I know where it is.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing, in the past with the muster drill, it's like, okay, now it's time to go to your muster drill. And everybody just piled in together and you just kind of follow the crowd. I can't possibly tell you where those muster stations were.
Right. And then everybody piles out at the same time.
Right.
That's all gone.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're going to keep it this way.
I hope so.
They would be crazy not to, because they're
works.
accomplishing everything in a much better way. So why wouldn't they keep it this way?
I've heard it's extremely efficient. The one thing I do want to ask though is, how do they know that a person has gone through muster if they want to, say, for example, go to a bar and go drinking or something like that? Like, is there a way that they track that?
Yeah.
They scan your sign and sale card. So they basically sign it or scan it. They're like, Kimbra, Matt, we're like, yep, that's us. And they marked on their little iPad thing that we were there. They sent us to the main dining room is actually where we went. And there's a lady in there who had her life jackets and stuff. She showed us how to do it. And then we walked out and the lady that like scanned our cards was like, you're good to go, because she scanned us before we walked in.
So our friend Adam, who was sailing with us, he had the drink package. So he had not gone to muster yet. And he went to try and get a drink. And even though he had the drink package, he had to show him his card. They still scan your card. And they were like, we can't give you a drink to go do muster. So he had to go do muster. Now,
Wow.
he would not have skipped muster. He's not that person. But yeah. And he was like, that's kind of annoying. But we were like, but that's also kind of brilliant.
It is.
So it was cool.
It's a good series of checks and balances to make sure that people are doing the muster drill. So
yeah,
that's good. I wonder how they accommodate it for those people who maybe aren't drinkers, who just are skipping the muster drill, or they're not making it a priority. If they like, because what time was the disembarkation or the sail away? Sorry.
It was supposed to be at 4.
Yeah, I think it was about 4:30ish that I think we actually started heading out.
I don't think that we could leave port until everybody had done the muster. So I did not, on our sailing, I did not hear any announcements, like, because what normally happens is people do skip the muster and then they basically start calling these people out and they have to go and meet somewhere for like a shame session and get their muster drill. But the problem is you're waiting for them for a while before they finally give up, and then they do that. So it's kind of the same thing, but I feel like there were less people that did that because it was so easy. And so, yeah, I don't think they really had much of an issue, at least not on our sailing, but I think they would have to find them. So they're going to find you because you have a stateroom, you have your sail and sign card, it's not going to work. All these things. They have facial recognition, so they probably know where you're at on the ship, but they're gonna hunt you down if you didn't do the muster, and you're gonna have everybody like looking at you going, why didn't you?
You're that guy.
Yeah,
you're that guy.
Waiting for you.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, so
exactly. It's gonna take you 4 minutes, not even 5, 4 minutes to do this.
Everybody on the ship is waiting for it. Yep. So, all right. So a couple things before we get started. Okay, first off, you get to the room. You have a balcony. You have a balcony in this particular one, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I want people to take a look at your video for this because it seems really nice, and you definitely it was shiny and happy and great, and you had a good view, which was awesome. Obviously, if you could get out of the room to the balcony again, that was a little bit of a I saw that video, I know how that went. So yeah, well, but I'll let people go over to your video to figure it out. They figured out a way outside, but don't worry about it. But it's really a great story. So but another thing I want to really go into as well is Guy's Burger versus chicken. Okay, so Shaq's chicken, I'm a big chicken person. I'm a huge chicken person. Which did you prefer? Because you had access to both while you were there.
You're going to be happy if you go on the ship, is what I'm going to tell you.
Yes. So I'm a chicken person. So I was excited about Big Chicken. Guy's Burgers is okay. I'm not a burger person. So chicken is my thing. But Matt, on the other hand, is a burger guy.
I am a burger guy. And so I thought I'll probably like Big Chicken. I'll probably eat there once, and then I'll be going to Guy's Burgers. Well, I love Guy's Burgers, but Big Chicken was my jam. Like it was,
wow.
It was so good. It was so good. 4 different sandwiches that they offer. Mm-hmm. We had them all between the two of us, and they had chicken tenders too, and they had a breakfast sandwich, and we had that as well. So there's a lot of places you can eat on the ship. We ate at Big Chicken a lot because it was so good.
I mean, I still for lunch, I say, hey Matt, Big Chicken for lunch. Of course we can't go to.
Evil.
But it's like just crave big chicken.
Well, that's just, what you're doing there, Kimbra, is you're giving another reason to just go back on the Mardi Gras.
I
So
know,
Yeah.
just
I
throwing it
know.
out there. Just, you can't get this anywhere else. So that's going to be one of
Yeah.
those things. I do want to ask another question in reference to dietary needs, because my spouse is vegan. And so, and I know you're a huge fan of Indian food anyways, which is awesome. And you can definitely get a lot of vegan options there. But in reference to just you're wandering the ship and taking a look at the different food venues, did you see any options that were either vegetarian or vegan at different venues that you went to?
Um, at the MDR, of course, the main dining room, there's always a vegetarian option, or I'm sorry, an Indian option, which is always vegetarian. And I believe it's always vegan. I'm not 100% sure on that part. And it's always amazing and it's always delicious. And yes, but throughout the rest of the restaurants, uh, with the exception of probably Guy's Burger and Big Chicken, there were at least vegetarian options pretty consistently. There were also vegan options as well, but they do a good job because they do get a lot of different people that have dietary needs, and so they try and cater to those, and I think they do a really good job of doing that.
Excellent. And I know you've said before, and I've heard this on your vlog and podcast a lot, you guys are not big gamblers, but did you happen to pass by the casino at any point and just kind of check it out and see, like, that looks pretty busy?
We did actually. So the casino, the way that they did it is actually kind of cool. They did a smoking side and a non-smoking side.
Oh, cool.
They were connected at some point, but I feel like the connection was not so much that like the smoke wafted over to the non-smoking side. So it was really nice that those were separated. So people that don't like to be in that smoke can still gamble if they want to do that.
Okay.
We did walk through, we actually walked through both sides because of the doors that we ended up going through.
Okay.
And it didn't actually seem too crowded at any time that we walked through there. Our friend Adam actually did a couple of the penny machines, and then he did roulette. So we sat down and watched him do that. That is the first time I've ever seen that. So that was really cool.
Roulette can be fun. I mean, personally, there are two games that I look for when I go on a ship. And the reason I'm asking this is because we get casino rates when we go on the ships. So oftentimes we'll get like really, really great rates and stuff like that, but it's because we gamble so much on the ships. So I'm usually into two games, which are craps and blackjack. And those are the two games I usually make a beeline for every time I go on the ship. And then my spouse is big into the slot machines, and just I don't make money on the ships. My spouse makes money on the ships. It's crazy. I don't know how. But did you see table games on there? There was obviously roulette, but was there blackjack and craps and things like that on there as well?
Yep, they had all of that. So they had that
Okay.
on both sides. So you could do it on the smoking side or the non-smoking side, and they had plenty of tables. I don't know what's normal, but they seem to have plenty of tables.
Yeah, I felt like, and we didn't spend a lot of time in there, but I felt like they had maybe they had twice as many, because I felt like each side of the casino was almost as big as a regular casino on a Carnival ship.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of a symmetrical casino. So you had one on the one side on the port, one on the starboard, but they had blackjack, and they had craps, and they had poker, and they had all that stuff, and lots and lots of slot machines. So so you guys will be very happy on that ship.
Did you know, did Adam need to have a reservation?
No,
he just walked up.
Okay.
There was
cool.
nobody there at the time, so
Yeah,
it was just him.
it was pretty empty.
It was pretty empty at that time. I
may
think it
have
was
been-
early in the
I was
day
gonna say it
too.
might have been the time that we went through.
I think we went in at like 10 a.m. or something. Like
Yeah.
it was early.
it was earlier, but it probably got busier in the evening. But one of the things that like I don't like to gamble, because I feel like I just donate money to the ship, but I'm glad other people do. But one of the things that I don't like about the casino is, like she said, the smoke. So like when I cruise with people that gamble, I do enjoy sometimes going and watching them gamble, and but I don't if it's real smoky. And then some ships, like say the fantasy class on Carnival, you almost are forced to be in the smoking part of the casino for other activities
Like trivia.
and stuff. So this ship doesn't have any of that. Like you can completely avoid all the smokiness, or you can go right into it. If you're a smoker, then it's there for you. So it makes everybody happy, I think.
That's where it actually creates kind of this interesting thing. Because with myself and my spouse is a smoker. I am not. And so if with the casino layout, the way that you've described it, my spouse could go to one side of the casino, I can go to the other side of the casino. We could still both be gambling at the same time. And I don't have to worry about immersing myself in the smoke or having to deal with that. So again, great information on that. What about the pool deck? How did that operate?
So there were pools everywhere.
Yeah.
The main pool deck wasn't super crowded. But again, this ship was sailing at 70%, so it was never crazy crowded. The deck itself, the pools in general were always full of people. But the main Lido pool deck was kind of cool the way that it was set up. So there were some restaurants on that area as well. And there's usually like seating along the windows next to the pool area, like tables and stuff for like food. This ship had it kind of separated off, like they were kind of
Or walls.
sort of I mean, you could see through them. They
Yeah.
weren't like super solid walls, but
But
they
it,
were
did, it
walls
didn't
that
feel like it was part of the pool.
right. It separated it enough that you could still see into the pool, but it wasn't part of the pool area. So that was really nice to allow that seating space. They do have 2 aft pools, which are really neat because they're kind of infinity pools where you know, the water goes right up to the windows and you can like see over and feel like you're gonna fall in, which is cool. And then of course they had the Serenity pool as well.
Yeah, so 4 kind of full size. When I say full size, keep in mind these are cruise ship full size pools. Smaller on the smaller end, I'd say, of all the cruise ship pools out there, but a lot of them. The thing is, one of the things that we noticed though about Mardi Gras is that is one of the few spots where we saw it packed at 70%. Now, part of that might have been because this was a very hot cruise. Like the weather was blazing.
It was hot.
And so people wanted to be in the water even more so maybe than normal. That could have accounted for that, but there were also a lot of hot tubs too.
And they were like big hot tubs, like not one of those little things that you put 2 people in and maybe someone else can squeeze in and you're like all hugging each other. Like these were good sized hot tubs where you could have plenty of people and still have space.
Okay, nice. Did you notice as far as the makeup of the passengers, was there a lot of kids on board? Was it just a smattering? Like what were your feelings on that?
So there were definitely kids on board, but since this was a 95% vaccinated cruise
and school started in most
and
areas.
School has started, only up to 5% could have been under 12.
Okay.
So, you know, there were some teens, there were some kids, but really there weren't a ton of them. And the ones that we did see were usually like on the sports court.
Yeah, there were the kind of kid friendly areas and all the kids were there all the time.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to see kids, which we didn't, especially on this cruise, you could go to these areas and there were kids up there playing. So if you're a family bringing a kid, I mean, they were there, but yeah, it was less than normal. And I feel like even if it would have been a normal like summer cruise, I feel like those kids would have been really kind of in those spots because that's where you'd want to be. If I was a kid, that's where I'd want to be. I mean, we were there a little bit because we're still big kids, but not, but not in like, so, not in the little park area, but like the water slides and stuff. So mini golf, that kind of thing.
Speaking about ship activities, let's talk about the roller coaster. Okay. Now, I've heard both sides of this. I've heard pros and cons about it. Obviously, con being the cost of something like this, but the pro being, hey, I went on a roller coaster on a ship, dang it. And so it's like wind in my hair as I fly around the ship at my own pace. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly what you said. So it's $15 per person. So 2 people can go on at a time. You still have to pay $15 per person. It goes around one time. It's 30 seconds long, up to 35 miles per hour. It's fun. We did it once. Not going to pay to do it again.
But at least you did it one time.
Yeah. I tell people, if you're on the Mardi Gras, just do it because it's a little bit of a, extra expense, but think of it like that expensive drink that you slam or something. But yeah, you probably, some people, maybe it'd be worth it. For us, it was like, it was fine. If I want to go on a roller coaster, I'm going to Universal Studios or someplace. But yeah, it's that thing you can say you did it and experience it and then be done with it. Hopefully Carnival will knock that price down in the future to, I mean, I would say $5 would be what I would think would be the worthwhile price for it for
It's
me
the it's
personally.
the it's the new shiny thing, it seems,
Yeah.
and so their prices are going to be jacked in a little bit. And like as the years go on, it will either A, go out of order, or B, they'll drop the prices on it and say, oh well, everybody can get on for like five. That would make sense to me from a business standpoint. They just have to earn their return on investment back, and then I
Yeah,
think they'll be
the
fine.
other thing for me, I don't know if you feel the same way. I really wanted to do it while were at sea. We ended up riding it at port because the winds were too high for them to run it while we were at sea. So for our first 2 days were sea days,
Mhm.
and they weren't running bolts at all. So we weren't able to ride it until our first port,
Okay.
which I
At
mean,
least, at least they had it operating in the port though, so that was kind
yeah,
of nice.
it's cool, but it would have been really cool to be like in the middle of water and just like going on this thing.
When they did the Vista class ships, they had the sky ride that you pedal around on, and it's included. There's no charge for that, and it has some limitations with wind as well. But I was a little surprised that, I mean, I get it. They especially right now, they have to recoup some money because the cruise lines obviously have suffered a lot. But I was a little bit surprised that they ran that price so high. But I mean, people did do it. So
Yeah. I mean, people lined up and I looked at Matt, I said, that's $15. That's $15. Like
yeah,
I was like,
right.
they've got $300 just standing here waiting to get on this thing.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, again, it's that new shiny, hey, I
And
want to be
people will
that
pay
person
it.
yep, exactly. And
Yeah.
I mean, again, if you're one of those people that like, I'm really gung ho to go on a cruise. I'm super excited. I want to be able to take advantage of the things that are on the ship. And regardless of whether it's going to cost me a little bit, like a little bit here and there, it doesn't really hit you until maybe you have to pay it at the end. And then you're like, oh, wow, was that how much I paid? Like you get that sticker shock when you look at your receipt. Couple other things I want to touch up base on before we jump into ports really quick though. Kimbra, you are renowned for having the drink of the day. So any standouts that you had while you were going on the cruise at all?
So we actually only did the drink of the day twice. I always do it on the first day.
Okay.
And the first day is always the fun ship, which is a drink I know I don't like, but I always get it anyways. And then I drink it and I say, I don't like this. I might stop doing that to myself. But
I don't blame you. I do the same thing with my spouse drinks gin all the time, like gin martinis all the time. And I'm like, oh, let me try a little bit of that. And they're like, okay, you know what? You're gonna hate this. I already know you hate gin. And I'm like, well, maybe it's different this time. And I'm like, nope, still tastes like formaldehyde.
always the
Okay.
same. Yeah.
Yep,
Still
that's yep,
gin.
still gin. No, that's not for me, but thanks anyways, and that's great. So no, I totally understand. And I would challenge you to be able to sharing the experience of trying something new as well. So that would be awesome too.
Yeah.
Uh is in terms of Matt, you drink a little bit, I think, harder alcohol, like rum. And do you drink whiskey as well, or?
I'm a whiskey guy. Yeah, I like
Okay.
rum. Whiskey is my love, and then rum is as a real close second, and tequila is a little bit further third. I'm not a fan of gin, although mixed in drinks it's okay. I don't like vodka unless you can really cover the taste of it. I know it's supposed to be tasteless, but I don't. I think it's
Oh no, it's taste. You can taste it, believe me.
yeah. But yeah, I like whiskey, and I like weird things like absinthe. I love black licorice.
Hmm.
So um we the barbecue place in the ship has a lot of whiskey drinks, but
Nice.
we spent a lot of time at two bars. One of them is on a lot of ships called the Alchemy Bar.
Oh
And the
yeah.
other one, yeah, that, oh man, that they, well, let me tell you about the other one first, because the other one's the new one, which is the fortune teller. And they have some cool drinks. And no matter what you like, they got a drink that matches it. But they have like a crystal ball drink that has this bubble that blows up, and they've got drinks with smoke and all these effects. There's like an evil eye one they spray on it. It's really cool. It's a beautiful bar. If you like that sort of macabre New Orleans feel, I mean, it's that
It's the
tacky.
Mardi Gras.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
And everything looks like a science experiment.
Yeah, it's like
it's so cool.
Yeah, it's like science and witchcraft. It's very cool.
And you have a video of that on your channel too, correct?
Yes, yeah, we have a few. You'll see a few there, and some coming up still, I think. But we ended up spending more time at the Alchemy Bar, which is also kind of sciencey. But the bartenders there, when they get to know you, they will pretty much kind of make you what you like. Like they get to where they kind of know what you like, and you just let them, if you're adventurous, and I encourage you to be, then you just let them go to town and make you something. And they made us magic in a glass. And like we drank more on this cruise than we normally do. Normally we have a few drinks on a cruise. We drank a lot on this cruise.
No regrets.
We still not enough to warrant the drink package. We still didn't drink that much, but yes, no regrets, because we had such a fun time, especially at the Alchemy Bar. And the bartenders there were two Nicolas and a Pedro. They were the main ones there. But the one Nicola that waited on us mostly, he made Kimbra these amazing drinks.
And he made them very pretty. Like they're not
beautiful.
just delicious, but the presentation,
the charisma
and
on this
fun.
man.
Like he dances and like you get your drink and you pull up your camera and he's like, yeah, take a picture with me behind it. Like this guy is awesome, but his drinks are phenomenal.
Yeah.
I remember we went on the Carnival Imagination, and there was an Alchemy Bar on there as well. And the gentleman who was there made me, it was kind of an old fashioned, but he also used these bourbon soaked cherries and he put them in there as well. So it was just a really interesting combination. And it was like, because I like sweet drinks, but whiskey is one of those things that I could drink a lot of. Don't get me wrong, Kimbra, I absolutely love, like, mixed drinks and all kinds of fun stuff like that, especially, and if it's sweet, I'm all into it. But yeah, I mean, I love Alchemy Bar. They're a mainstay on most Carnival ships, as I think on all Carnival ships, aren't they? Or is it just my own?
They're not on the fantasy class.
I was just saying, not on the Paradise.
But I think they're on most of the other. There may be one or two that they're not on, but most of them, yeah. And they're a good experience on most of the ships. This one was stellar, but I think you'll get a similar experience. We did a mixology class, which you have to sit at this bar enough to get invited to this. It's the only way. It's not like listed anywhere. And Adam did. So, so nice. We got invited by proxy. And so then you learn how to make drinks, and they make it. Right now it's a little different, but it was still really fun. It was like $15, and you got like four partial drinks and a shot. And then they give you a drink coupon for $10.95 for $15. And you get the show. It was outstanding.
It was amazing, worth it. Sit at the Alchemy Bar, let the bartenders know you get invited.
Yeah. And so they give you a prescription. This coupon is like a prescription, and you put down like liquors that you like and the different flavors that you like and stuff. So I ended up giving him my prescription, and he made me, it was a spicy mango whiskey chocolate mint drink.
Oh my gosh.
And it sounds like that might not work, but it worked. It worked really well. It basically, the chocolate and mint was a frozen peppermint patty that he put in there. And it was like some kind of alcohol soaked peppers or something that got the spice. It was so good.
That's incredible.
Really, yeah.
Oh, wow. I don't even know where to go from. Okay. So no, that's great. I gotta confess, I am a little bit of a featherweight when it comes to drinking. I'll usually have like one drink, like just as a casual cocktail, unless I know that I have to be up in the morning for like an early morning excursion or something like that. When I'm traveling, I know like people are gonna make fun of me. Like, you can't hold your liquor. Well, it's true. I can't hold my liquor. Sorry. But I do like my liquor, and it just depends on the type of stuff I have. So let's see what else. Before we get to the ports, the buffet, I wanted to figure out, like, did you stop by the buffet at any point during this in order to kind of check it out and see how the serving was going to be going with something like this?
Yeah, so we did walk by the buffet a couple times. You actually have to, well, depending on which direction you're coming from, you have to walk through the buffet to get to Big Chicken. So we walked through there a couple times.
And that says it all right there, really.
And there's nothing wrong with the buffet. It's just you guys had a really good experience with Big Chicken, which is
right.
awesome.
So I think we had like some bread and cheese at the buffet the first night, and then we never went back. Not because there was anything wrong with the buffet, but there were so many other options. They were doing self-serve, so they weren't serving you unless you wanted bacon. I guess
Oh,
we did
the
do
great
buffet
bacon
anyway.
incident. I heard about this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
the
bacon
bacon
shortage.
shortage. So
Oh my
they
gosh.
limited the bacon intake.
Was there rioting? What happened?
I think it was okay.
There was
Okay.
enough other food on the ship.
Yeah.
I think a smaller or lesser ship, they might have had a mutiny on the bounty kind of thing going on, but they did okay on this one.
Yeah, so it's self-serve. Other than that, I don't think we really did much at the buffet. It was
breakfast. We did breakfast
we
there.
did breakfast. Yeah.
Lots of seating.
Tons of seating.
Yeah, and so it's really, and I think even when it's at 100% capacity, I think it's going to be easy to find seating.
There's plenty of seating. Yeah.
I wonder if people are just not as comfortable with the buffets back yet as they are with like something like the MDR, where people are waited on and there's very limited touch on your food or around your food, I guess.
It could be, but I mean, like we said before, this ship in particular, that there's Blue Iguana, there's the Palm Restaurant was doing breakfast, Big Chicken had breakfast, the main buffet had breakfast. Did anyone? I'm sure that there was probably breakfast somewhere else. Like there was
barbecue place had
breakfast.
It was a buffet, but it was down
yeah.
there.
So
totally.
You could go to lots of different places. So I think they did a really good job with spreading all of that out. So you didn't see a ton of people at the buffet, but that's because they were everywhere else.
And I think the goal of Carnival in the making of the ship, which just happened to work out well for being in a pandemic, is that they were trying to look at some of these big Oasis class ships from Royal Caribbean. They were kind of looking at Virgin coming out without a buffet on their cruise ships, and they were trying to get a little bit more of that. They're still having a buffet, but they have so many other included and upcharge options that it spreads people out for food choices and just makes for a more interesting and pleasant experience. And I think they really nailed it.
I was going to ask you a little bit about what you are being a travel consultant. I was wondering what your thoughts were about, and I know we're stepping away from the Mardi Gras for just 1 second, but about Virgin and their specific food options. Because from what I understand, is it kind of more like a food court than a buffet, or how does it work with them?
They're selling it like food trucks, and I think and then Carnival had, what was the place called, Street Eats, that was kind of like that, and that's sort of what Guy's Burgers and Blue Iguana are already kind of like that. But the thing that Virgin is doing is they're just completely getting rid of the buffet, and everything is, I think all the food's included.
Yeah, everything's included, and they do have separate restaurants. But then the area that would be considered the buffet is, like you said, kind of like a food court.
So instead of just going and ladling food onto a plate, it's kind of like Carnival's Deli, or where you're ordering something a little more specific. They're doing a little bit of prep work for your dish or whatever it may be.
I think everything's made to order.
Yeah.
So it's customized. Okay. That makes more sense. And that's okay. That definitely sounds more like a food court than anything. I mean, you could definitely go to like this place that serves Chinese food and this other place over here that serves Indian food if you wanted to get a mix of different things, but you'd have to wait for them to be prepped for you. And I guess in that way that makes them fresher. So that's cool. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Oh, no, that's I think that's exactly what they're going for, which is kind of cool.
We're very curious about trying a Virgin Voyages thing sometime.
We've got it booked, leaving Black Friday.
Yeah.
I gotta know everything about it. You're gonna have to tell me everything once you come back. I really want to know, especially the drag bar that they have there. I'm told it's a lot of fun and it's just like crazy town. So again, I want to know everything, but that's for another vlog and podcast. One last thing before we talk about a couple of destinations. did you have an opportunity to meet either the captain or the cruise director?
The captain, no. I think we saw him at when they did one of the.
Yeah, they did like the
so
the
did we
crew.
didn't get our picture taken with the captain. I don't think.
No, but we did with the crew. Adam did.
Adam did, yeah.
Yeah. So they did like the crew thing where they introduce all the important people and then some of the crew and stuff. So we saw that. And then we did get a picture with the cruise director who for this
The cruise director.
was the Flying
The
Scotsman.
Scotsman.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I had to keep Kimbra away from him because she's like anybody with a Scottish accent
and a kilt.
and a kilt.
I
So
can't help myself.
I'm like, I mean, but I like a Scottish accent too. So I was like, yeah, move over, girl.
It's a little bit roguey, so that's fine. So I mean, like I'm assuming he's legendary amongst cruise directors. Like, was he entertaining? I mean, like, what was the whole thing with him?
I will say this: people either love him or can't stand him. He's like blue cheese or black licorice. So we both really enjoyed him.
That's an interesting analogy, by the
way. He's sometimes he has a Scottish accent, sometimes he doesn't, which I think is just he is Scottish. I think he's just putting on an American accent when he doesn't. But as a cruise director, he's very chatty and he will make really long announcements, and you can see people like, oh, especially if it's like the crew and they're trying to talk to you, and then all of a sudden they have to stop and wait for like 5 minutes for him to finish. But he's got a beautiful Scottish accent, so it's okay for us.
It's okay.
But then he does, this is what separates him from all the other cruise directors, is he does his own performance where he does a whole menagerie, a cornucopia of songs that he sings and performs, and they're magnificent, they're wonderful. And he does everything. He does opera, he does rock and roll, he does classic Scottish songs, he just everything.
Well, he also within that he also talks to you about himself and his background and why he does what he does and things that are important in his life and stuff, which is really cool to like get to know him in that way. But then it's like a concert at the same time. Yeah, and it was way better than any of the other team entertainment that we saw on the ship. I would say he killed it.
Oh my gosh, really? Okay. Kimbra, I am so sorry. Okay, so so let's talk, like, we have to talk about a couple of the ports that you went to. Now, in going there, did you need any visas or anything like that, or was like your passport or driver's license perfectly acceptable?
We had our passports and that was perfectly fine. So one of them was actually Puerto Rico, which is a U.S.
And Dominican Republic is also technically sort of U.S.
Is it?
Territory. But like, so normally with the cruise, you need your passport, or you can use like a birth certificate and an ID to get on the ship. But then at the ports, all you have to have is a driver's license and your sail and sign card.
Yeah.
So some people recommend taking your passport in case you get left behind. And some people say not to do that. I don't really know where I stand on that, but that's what you have to have just for your normal getting on and off the ship.
That makes sense. And I've heard, just as a precautionary note, to keep your passport in the safe on the ship, but maybe have copies of it in your phone in case you get left behind or something.
That's kind of the way we go. The counter argument to that is that if you're in a non-US port and you get left or you have to fly back, they might not accept that copy of it. I don't know if that's true or not. So
the solution is just don't get left behind.
Right. Correct. Exactly.
I don't take my passport off the ship. I don't know if that's the smartest thing, but I don't. That's how I feel. That's what I feel. I put it in the safe.
And I feel like when we're in, like, we've been in Russia before, and you can't not bring your passport with you. That's one of those places that if you get stopped, you're going somewhere that's going to be very cold if you don't have your passport. Exactly. So you best be prepared. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of the ports you went to. Recently, you guys did a travel vlog and podcast on the great territory of Puerto Rico, which it sounds like, Kimbra, this was your first time there, and it sounds like you really had a fun time.
Yes, Puerto Rico is like one of my top favorite ports now. This was my first time there. The one thing that I was most excited for was Umbrella Street, which was not umbrellas, so that was disappointing.
But it was
But
because of the Olympics, right?
yeah,
Well, somebody said that it's up to the
the governor's
governor's
wife.
wife, and she's decided to go with a flag motif. But I don't know. We don't have confirmation on that. But
Yeah,
that's what
I
one
don't
of our
know.
listeners sent us a message about that.
I don't know. Bring the umbrellas back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start a petition. Bring the umbrellas back.
Yeah.
Hashtag bring the umbrellas back.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
But we ended up we decided to just kind of walk around the port, do some shopping. Matt wanted to get a pina colada, which we ended up doing. I'm sure he'll talk about that. But we decided to walk to the fort, and we took kind of the scenic route and walked along kind of a sidewalk that was right by between the water and like the wall of everything.
Passe del Moro, I believe.
Yes, that's what it's called. And the wildlife there like was phenomenal.
They were partying, tequila, doing shot. No, it was I love cats. I am a cat person. And they have this thing where it's like save a gato, and they take stray cats, they fix them so they can't make more stray cats. They clip their ears so they know that they've been fixed. And then they give them food and litter boxes and stuff. And this whole area is like littered, if you'll pardon the pun, with cats, which is amazing. So there's cats everywhere. It's a beautiful ocean on the left. There's this big wall, this like 17th century wall on the right. And then Kimbra sees these huge iguanas, which are invasive species there, but I still love to see them. They're not good for the environment, but they're really good on the eyes for me. And so there were a bunch of iguanas there. And then we saw a native lizard, which we were super stoked about. And it's like a little tegu type species. It's not a
which of course you love because you have one that's like
right.
Yeah. So we're like, oh look, it looks like a mini Luna. That's our lizard's name. But and there were some pigeons, but there's pigeons. And there were spiders, which she didn't care about, but they were really cool orb weavers.
Oh no, she cared about them. She just didn't want to be around them. So I'm familiar between Kimbra's fear of spiders and crows. It's like, okay, look, that's been well noted in your podcast. So
yes.
So totally understandable. So it sounds like you had a good time. I've never been to Puerto Rico yet. We are going to be going this upcoming March on Royal Caribbean. We're starting from Puerto Rico and then we're going down to the ABC Islands. Nice. So that one, I'm trying to remember the name of the ship, but it eludes me right at the moment. But that's not the first cruise we're going to be going on. Hopefully, cross your fingers for me. If everything works out in December, we're still on board for Sydney and New Caledonia. So
cool.
Oh, cool.
So wish me luck on that one.
Yeah.
So what was the next stop after? Oh, actually, before we go on, so birthplace of the drink of choice.
Yes.
I believe.
So yeah, I mean, well, so it's in contention. There's a Hilton there that claims they were the birthplace of the pina colada, and then there's this little restaurant bar called Barachina's, which says they're the birthplace. Now Barachina's, if they're right, they came after the other one. So I don't know. I don't care. What I do know is Barachina's makes a darn good pina colada. This is not your standard mixed pina colada. And so we had to go there and get it because I had one before. She doesn't like coconut, but she liked this because it's fresh
delicious.
ingredients. They use a Puerto Rican rum, not Bacardi, some other Puerto Rican rum. And oh man, it's just so good. So and the ambiance of this, I mean, Old San Juan is like takes you back in time. It's like a European city in the Caribbean. It's just one of those magical places that you're in Puerto Rico. There's no place else like it in Old San Juan. The people are friendly. It's beautiful. There's so much art. There's so much culture there. It's a wonderful, wonderful port. And it's a great place that you can just get off and walk around. You don't need to do any excursions. In fact, the first time I went to El Yunque, the rainforest there, which was cool. But honestly, as much of a nature guy as I am, like I would do Old San Juan over that rainforest any day of the week.
The history of Old San Juan, it seems, is just incredibly amazing. And if you're also in tune with like going all the way back to when pirates were in the area and there was a fort and stuff like that, it spurs the imagination. It's just really kind of cool stuff. I wish I could try a pina colada. Unfortunately, I am deadly allergic to pineapple, which, by the way, I was in Hawaii last week, and so I can't have it there either. So great on me.
Oh.
Yes.
So yay, unfortunately. But I used to be allergic to coconut, and somehow that disappeared overnight. And I was like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever had. Now I'm gonna have it everywhere I go. So yeah, so there's that. But hey, maybe I mean, again, Caribbean, I'm all into the rum drinks as well, so that's not gonna be an issue for me.
Yeah.
So Puerto Rico first, what happens after that? What's your next stop?
So our next stop was Amber Cove, Dominican Republic.
Nice.
And that port is okay. It's some shops and it's a big swimming pool. If a big swimming pool is your thing, then it's great. They have a swim up bar. For us, we can get on the pool on the ship. But what's kind of cool about it is that's where some of Jurassic Park was filmed.
Oh, nice.
So they've got like a big amber statue thing that's got like
Fake,
I wonder if that's why it's called Amber Cove.
Vertebrates in it and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
It's so that was cool. It's fake. It's not real.
She says that because I've seen and heard people that thought it was real, and I'm like, no, that's just a demonstration. Anyway,
but it's beautiful.
It is pretty. It's very pretty.
Like we got, I think we went to the top deck of the ship or something, and you just look, and it's like it's just gorgeous to look at.
The port itself is the shopping mall of cruise ports, if you know what I'm saying. Like, there are several cruise ports that just look like a stamped cookie cutter cruise port, and this is one of those. But it's stamped on a really beautiful background, and that background is mountains and just lush forests and beautiful turquoise ocean. It is one of the most scenic areas. Just the port itself is, it's just very generic itself, other than the movie thing. Because Jurassic Park, they filmed some other things, like I think it's a part of Apocalypse Now, and I know there were a few other films that part of them were filmed in Dominican Republic.
We did have some very yummy coffee.
We did, really good. And I will say, in the past, I've been to Dominican Republic and did a monkey thing where you go and you get to hang out with monkeys. And on the way, we stopped and got coffee. This little house, this little lady made it in this like brick thing and just gives you this little sample of coffee. And coffee's okay, but I usually like it mixed with lots of other things. This coffee it changed my opinion of coffee. It was so good.
Wow.
So Dominican Republic has some good coffee. Now, the coffee we had, they were frozen coffees, but it wasn't like a Frappuccino. Nothing against the Frappuccino, but this was so much better because it was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was in the same way that the pina colada was not just a frozen mix. That's how this frozen coffee was. It was like, it was very tasty. Cafe Cibo, I think it was called, or something. It's right like there in the port. Ciabo, something like that. Yeah.
Yes. I'm really surprised thus far in the two ports that you've been to, and I know how big you are both into both snorkeling and scuba, that I haven't heard that you guys engaged in that as of yet.
Yeah.
But
not a lot of opportunity in these two ports for that.
So the other part of that reason is because this was a last minute cruise for us, and it was money that we weren't initially planning to spend.
Got it.
We actually didn't do any excursions. So if we were to do excursions on those, we may have done some like scuba or snorkeling.
But San Juan, that's not where you dive, unless you're there for like a week or something. Dominican Republic, actually, at a different port, one of maybe my best dive in the Caribbean was in Dominican Republic. But and there was a 2-tank dive that we could have done, but it was pricey even for a cruise dive. So we were like, you know what, let's enjoy the Mardi Gras and just have a chill day.
Yeah. But our last port, we did do some snorkeling.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about that. Where was this at? This was in Bahamas?
Nassau. Yep. That was our last port. And there's a beach that's about a 15-minute walk called Junkanoo Beach. It's a small beach, but it's free. So we walked over, we jumped in the water, did some snorkeling. We watched some videos and stuff ahead of time. And most people were like, this snorkeling is awful. We found a few videos that had some pretty cool stuff. So we were like, why not? What's it going to hurt? So we jumped in. We spent 2.5 hours snorkeling.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. Like we kind of are, that is kind of our angle, is the creatures and then snorkeling and scuba diving. So the people often ask us our opinion, and that's because that's a lot of our focus. And so I've often heard people just bash Junkanoo Beach as terrible for snorkeling. And if you only went about 10 feet into the water, then it is, because it's just cloudy from all the choppiness of the waves. But we saw, like she said, those videos that contradicted that. And so we're like, you know what? We're in Nassau. We're not doing an excursion. We're going to get to the bottom of this, literally. And it's for a free beach. That's a 15-minute walk from the port. You bring your own gear, and we saw a lot of stuff. It wasn't the best snorkeling ever, but we saw a lot of stuff, including, and this is an exclusive for you here because we haven't released this vlog yet.
No.
Please. Ooh, good
An
job.
octopus. So, and anytime anybody knows me knows, if I see an octopus, then it's automatically like a good day. So I've only seen 3 octopuses in my entire life in the wild, and 2 of them were in Nassau, strangely enough. But yeah, so it automatically elevated Nassau's snorkeling for me up several notches, because
Nice.
octopus, like, it could have been terrible, and I saw an octopus. It's all better now.
Oh,
But yeah, I would say, and it's not hard snorkeling. It's shallow water. It's calm water. You do need to be very careful if you go there, because there is a lot of stuff that can sting you there, like a lot of lionfish,
Fire
a lot,
coral.
a lot of fire coral, a lot of sea urchins. So, especially if you have kids or something, don't touch anything. Wear maybe rash guards,
Maybe
and
gloves if you're gonna.
maybe gloves.
I mean,
with
don't
just
touch
some-
things.
Yeah, just don't touch stuff, and just be a little cautious that you don't get like slammed into something if you're close to. There's like a jetty thing that goes out that has a lot of good stuff around it, but yeah, but there's a lot of cool stuff there.
I saw a really cool giant crab.
Yes,
Hermit crab.
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Did you
I
guys
didn't
film
see
that?
the octopus.
And,
So the
I'm
giant
sorry.
hermit crab was my highlight.
I was so upset.
But it was like huge. Like, it was big, and it was
Yeah.
really cool.
Did you have an opportunity to film underwater? Or?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
That-
I'll
that
definitely look
vlog's
for that.
coming later
It's
this week.
coming.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. That's gonna be awesome. One thing I was gonna ask, what was the start? Was there a shark situation at all? Like, how was everything in terms of that when you were diving? Or was there one at all?
Did you say a shark?
Shark, sorry, yeah, shark situation.
There, Bahamas, I mean, there's sharks there, but like at this beach, your odds of seeing one are slim to none. I
Okay.
would love it if I saw a shark there. There is a dive there that I know people have done where there's a lot of reef sharks on this, like, it's an old James Bond set and a wreck, and I've seen the video, and it looks really, really cool. But yeah, but no sharks for us.
Would have been
Okay.
cool.
That would not have been, well, depending on the species, it probably wouldn't have been better than the octopus for me, but it would have been real close.
Nice.
Unless it was just like a nurse shark. But I mean, that's even really cool to see.
By the way, speaking of nostalgia for you here, I did mention that I was in Hawaii last week, and so we did stop by the aquarium while we were over there as well, just to kind of, give back to the local university who also sponsors them, as well as for conservation efforts. And of course, I saw an eel there, and of course, broke into your song "Amore." So, if you want to ever ask my spouse about that, they'll tell you all about how horrible my voice is.
Well, we'll just formally apologize to him for that.
Right. That was your final port. Apart from that, any excitement for days at sea at all, or anything like that? Any Harry Potter trivia on board, or anything like that either?
So there was Harry Potter trivia, and I am a huge Harry Potter fan, and I have done Harry Potter trivia on every cruise that it's been available for, and I have won multiple ships on a stick for it. Which, if you don't know, Carnival's like prize for winning things is a plastic ship on a stick.
The fabled ship on a stick.
Yeah,
I'll have you
I
know.
mean,
Gold plated.
Gold plated.
I'd rather get the ship on a stick than anything else.
Or have a can opener or whatever it is that they do on the other places.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a keychain on Royal Caribbean or a deck of cards on.
I would pay good money to see you in a competition versus Tony Dials versus my husband, my spouse,
Oh.
whose, by the way, last name is also Potter and
Oh.
is very much a Harry Potter aficionado. I don't know if he's as good as the two of you are, but we do have a lot of trivia. So we'll have to be aware of this.
Tony might be a little better than I am. I don't want to admit it.
Wow. I was going to say that's big of you to.
He's read the books more times than I have.
He does a Harry Potter podcast now.
He does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He does.
I mean,
what's it called?
Common Room Talk.
Common Room Talk. Yep.
Yeah. We were actually just guests on his podcast.
And he gave her trouble for missing a couple of questions. In the
Harry Potter trivia. I did not win Harry Potter trivia, which I know it broke my heart. And Harry Potter trivia was on the first sea day. So like the rest of the cruise, I was like, I lost my opportunity for my ship on a stick. Like this is it. However, we also decided to do Star Trek trivia. And we are currently watching Star Trek. We've been watching Next Generation, and we just started Deep Space Nine.
My favorite episode of all the Star Treks is on Deep Space Nine, of all of them. And you'll know when you get to it. It's called, oh my gosh, what is it called? I think it's called Under a Pale Moonlight. I can't really tell you that much about it yet, but you'll know when you get to it. It is just so well written, and it's the best Star Trek episode I have ever seen in my life.
Deep Space Nine is my favorite series, so I was excited when we got up to that because it's her first time through.
I'm still learning. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
It's one of those things where, like, I think the first season of Deep Space Nine was a little bit clunky, or you just need to kind of get it. It was just kind of getting its wings, and then moved on to the second season and beyond. It got awesome. My favorite episode, as I said, it's called Under a Pale Moonlight. It involves Captain Sisko, or Commander Sisko, I guess he's right now, the Taylor Garrick, and a Romulan ambassador, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So, but it is just, I cannot tell you how much. I will go to YouTube and find clips of it. It is so good. It is just a spectacular episode. I'm so overwhelmed with it. So yeah, I mean, so did you end up winning this Star Trek trivia, or like how did this go for you guys?
So I obviously don't know it that well yet because I'm still watching it. The questions that actually came up about what I've seen, I did know. So that was impressive for me.
Mm-hmm.
But we went with Adam, who was cruising with us, and Adam is apparently a Star Trek person.
I thought I was going to give us a good shot. Adam won it for us. I knew.
Hey, you just gave it away.
Oh, sorry. You're right.
So
yay!
Yes, we did win Star Trek trivia.
Nice.
We were actually at a tiebreaker, and Adam won the final question.
Mm-hmm.
So he won the ship on a stick, walked back, put it in my hands, and although I didn't win it myself, I happily accepted it.
It was a group effort. See how that goes?
It was. I would have not won because I knew most of them, but there were two I didn't know that he knew. So it's all thanks to Adam.
Do you know what one of the questions were? I'm just kind of curious if I would know it or not.
Well, so one of them, yeah, I think I remember. So one of them that I didn't know was the name of Captain Archer's dog.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember it on Enterprise.
I couldn't remember either.
My spouse Kevin might know this one actually. It's the Beagle. I can't remember his name though.
I've only watched that series once. It's Porthos.
It's Porthos. That's right.
Yeah.
If you were to ask me about Data's cat, I would have told you the spot right off the top of my head, but whatever.
And then another one was the covert agency that is run by the Federation, which I remembered it was Section
51. Yeah.
I couldn't remember the
Section
number.
31.
Section 31. Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
Okay. I couldn't get the number right. So
I know it now. It doesn't matter, but I know it now.
And then the other one, and this one I was kicking myself for because we just started watching Deep Space Nine. I've watched Deep Space Nine through a few times in my life. And it was, what do the Cardassians call Deep Space Nine? And
Torak Noor.
Yes. And they had even said it, I think, in one of the episodes. And I was like, I was blanked out. And as soon as they said it, I was like, oh, Jeez, yeah.
I'm a
So
Star Trek geek. I got you on that. So between that, I was one of those people where when I met my spouse, I was like really into Star Trek and really into Star Wars, and they were really into Doctor Who. And so it's like I knew nothing about Doctor Who, and they're like, "Oh, let me show you something new about this old universe." Then, and so I learned everything about Doctor Who from my spouse. So there you go. Anyways, I'm sorry, we're losing everybody on the
no,
podcast.
I know. Okay,
We're geeking out, but
we'll
nonetheless,
refocus.
we'll refocus. Sorry, but it sounds like you had a really fun time. It sounds like all the accommodations were really well done. How was disembarkation when you got back to port?
It was the easiest we've ever done. We decided to carry our luggage off, so we didn't do the thing where we leave our luggage out.
Okay.
So we carried our luggage off. The way that they did it is the first like 45 minutes or so is for people that are taking their own stuff off. They call you
Good.
by muster station. So once they call your muster station, you're allowed to get off the ship. For us, it happened to work out. We got our stuff together and we just happened to go up to sit on the deck and they called our muster station. So we literally walked right off once we got there. So that was convenient.
Yeah, we walked up to the guy and he's like, "What's your muster station?" And then they announced our muster station. We're like,
that one.
That one. Yeah.
Like, okay, go right ahead.
There was no line to get off the ship. So you walk up, they scan your thing, you leave, sadly.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Right. And then as we were leaving, you go down all the stuff, and they had two lines, one for people that had a passport and one for people that had their birth certificate and ID. And we had our passports, so we went through that line. You walk right up, they've got these iPad things. You pull your mask down and it scans your face, and if you're good to go, gives you like a check mark and you leave.
And they didn't recognize my face, but it still was like,
because the beard. You're missing the beard.
They took a picture at the beginning, so I don't know as I changed to the cruise, but it took them like.
Well, again, you were saying you did eat a lot on the cruise. I think I heard both of you talk about that. So it's like, well, maybe you changed a little bit. So there you go.
that could very well be it. But the time it took them to like check me off with a human, she had still just come through the line, so it was real fast.
It was fast.
Like we went up to get breakfast that morning, and we like text Adam. We're like, "Hey, Adam, have you already eaten breakfast?" He's like, "I'm on 95 driving home." We're like, "What?" So
wow.
That's how quick desembarkation was.
That's amazing. I'm really impressed to see some of the new innovations that they've been bringing about as part of this process. Because when you think of the pandemic, I mean, you're thinking about all the negativity that goes along with it. But guess what? There's been some, like with the muster station and with disembarkation, it seems like there's been a lot of advancements to the process to make it a lot less clunky, a lot smoother, and a lot more efficient throughout this process.
Necessity is the mother of invention, isn't that?
I guess. So, yeah. I guess. So let's do some takeaways here, okay? Compared to the other ships that you've been on in the past, what are you thinking in terms of some of the pros as far as the Mardi Gras? Like, would you recommend this over other ships? Would you say there are better ships out there? Like, what are your thoughts?
It's my favorite ship.
Okay.
As far as ships go, the space, the layout, the decor, the amenities, the food. It's a wonderful ship, and I would encourage anyone that is interested in cruising to sail on the Mardi Gras, with the caveat of being, if this is your first cruise ship, it may ruin you for all other Carnival ships other than the like next one that comes out that's in the XL class.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. Like I didn't know if I would like it because I had never been on a large ship, and I kind of felt like I wouldn't.
Oh, really?
Like it. But I was wrong. Like I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a great ship.
Kimbra, what do you think?
It is also my favorite ship. I haven't been on nearly as many cruises as Matt, but all of my cruises have been on smaller ships as well. This is by far the biggest ship I've ever been on. The Horizon was supposed to be, but of course we jumped on another ship first, which is fine. But yeah, the layout was perfect. Our room location was really good, so that probably had some to do with it. But the layout was wonderful. Where things were placed, big chicken. Yeah, is fantastic.
Very nice. Not that there's any type of con, like when we talk about pros and cons about going on a cruise, because you always love going on cruises. There's never a bad thing to go on a cruise, as far as I'm concerned. But things that you things that maybe a traveler on a cruise ship should be aware of, especially with like the Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
Anything you want to highlight?
So even though the Mardi Gras is my favorite ship, and I would definitely love to sail on that ship again, it is not the ship I would want to sail on every time, because I am more of a port person than a ship person. And so I still enjoy smaller ships and that intimate experience with the ocean. And I don't need all that extra stuff. It kind of, I didn't spend a lot of time relaxing on this cruise because there was so much to do. And so I enjoyed that. But if all my cruises were like that, it would get exhausting. So I would say that for me, I would sail 2 or 3 small cruises for every one Mardi Gras cruise. So that's something to consider. And that's a subjective thing, just a personal preference kind of a deal. But if you want to go on a really cool ship, Mardi Gras would definitely be one I would consider.
It's more of a you're cruising for the ship rather than the ports itself.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Now you might get both, but again, it's almost like you don't have time to do both. So what's your focus? That's kind of how I think of it.
it's a good point. Kimbra, what are your thoughts? Anything that you want to highlight that you're like, this could have either been improved, or maybe this is not the most optimal thing I had wanted?
I agree with Matt. There was so much to do, and I felt like we were so busy figuring out what we didn't want to miss that we, I mean, we did, I think, everything that we wanted to do, but there were definitely things that I would have liked to spend more time doing.
More food venues that we didn't get to.
Absolutely.
I need big chicken 6 more times.
I just need it around our corner. So
Yeah, well, like we didn't eat street eats. We didn't eat like
Yeah.
there were places we didn't even eat at
Yeah.
because
Like the aft pools that I was talking about, we spent a little bit of time in those,
Mhm.
but I would have liked to spend more time in the
Yeah.
pools. We did have some good hot tub time. But it's just do a back to back, because that's the
Yeah.
only way you're gonna
Yeah.
actually experience the whole ship.
Yeah.
pretty much. One thing I want to talk about post vacation is value adds, cost savings, and best practices. And specifically, I would like to highlight one that I think is important for our listeners and my students to take into consideration, and that's the use of having a travel consultant slash travel agent. Talk to me a little bit about what's the value in something like that for someone who may think, oh, well, I don't necessarily want to pay a travel consultant or a travel agent because it costs more, or it's when in truth that's not necessarily the case. Like, can you highlight that for just a second?
Yeah. So what's great about a travel agent is it costs you nothing to use a travel agent. They are there to do all the work for you at no cost to you. So the way that it works is they will get you the best possible price, and the cost that you pay for the cruise is basically the travel agent commission fee is built into that. So if you go online and just book it yourself, you're actually paying more because you're paying the full price, and that extra money is not going to anyone. So if you book with a travel agent, they do all the work. You call them and say, this is what I'm looking for. They find the best cruise for you. They find the best room for you. They find everything exactly what you want within reason. They do all the work, and the price that you pay is the best possible price available. Even if you find some special deal, they can get you that deal, plus possibly something more, and you pay nothing for that, and you do none of the work.
Yeah, and you a lot of times you'll get perks. It might be extra onboard credit. It might be, as travel advisors or travel consultants, we might gift you something in your room if you book through us. And the other thing is, and this is really maybe the most important, is that especially if you're new to cruising, we have experience in ships and ports and excursions. And so we can talk to you, understand who you are and what's important to you, and we can help give you the best chance of having the best experience that's catered to you, not to us, not to the general majority, but to you personally. So, that is a real super advantage. And there's going to be questions that you may have a hard time finding answers to. And if you have a travel consultant, you can just email them and we can give you an answer, or we can find you an answer, and it's going to be an accurate answer. Whereas you could be part of a group, like we have the Fintastic Cruising community and stuff on Facebook, and there's a lot of really knowledgeable people, a lot of cruise groups. And if you ask a question in one of them, you will get a good answer along with 50 bad ones. And how do you know which one is the best answer and which one is even accurate to what the question was that you asked? Because that's the internet.
Or one person's opinion versus another person's.
Right.
Really
Yeah. You're like, what's a good excursion in San Juan? And people start talking about Cozumel. But yeah, so we can really give you those answers and get you the information that's most beneficial to you.
And again, just so my students have access to, in case there's any questions and they wanted to touch base with you guys on this, it's fintastictravel@gmail.com. Is that correct?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our time together today. But again, for those who wanted to see all of your wonderful excursions, all of your incredible podcasting, there's a couple of different ways that we can do that through contacting Matt and Kimbra through either Fintastic Studios on YouTube, or like I do on my walks every Sunday when I hear you guys, which is on Fintastic Cruising podcast, which is how I heard you guys in the first place. You guys are well over 100 podcasts now. Again, just great job. You guys do I have to take a point of privilege here to say you guys are the ones who actually inspired me to do my work through vlogging and podcasting. So again, I want to thank you both for that. So it was just, it's you guys, you have a very distinctive point of view that's very easy to listen to and very fun to listen to. And that's kind of how I want to promote myself too, but in a little bit of a different way too. But that's not the exact same as yours. But at the same time, again, for my students that are out there, I highly encourage you to reach out if you're interested in traveling to fintastictravel@gmail.com. If you're interested in seeing some of the all the wonderful pictures and videos that they have, go to YouTube and look up Fintastic Studios. Or if you want to hear that information, like for me when I'm walking, go to Fintastic Cruising on the podcast, on Apple Podcast, on Podbean, on like a million other areas to get you guys, correct?
Yeah, any podcast service should have that. If not, let us know and we'll fix it. But we're on all the major ones for sure.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for your time. I could speak with you guys for hours and hours and hours. You guys are just amazing. I always have a fun time when I'm talking with you. So again, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah, we always love being on your podcast and love talking to you as well.
Well, and I'm hoping to see you guys on the group cruise in 2023.
Yes,
I'm very much going to have a conversation about that, and you will hear from me very soon about that. So
Awesome.
if you need us to be there to support you in that conversation, we will join you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a hard sell though.
Okay.
So thank you so much, both of you. Now, if you're on the YouTube channel right now, seeing me, and you want to be notified about when new videos go up, hit that little bell icon above you in order to be notified about when new videos are up. If you haven't already done so, please feel free to subscribe. We always appreciate new subscribers, and your input is always welcome. If you like this and you want to hear more of it, like different content or similar content, give us a thumbs up. We really want to hear all about that. So until next time, my name is Scott. I am the Professor Travel and make every day a travel adventure. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.